Hey there, here we are again in part 2 of the Tools of the Trade series. And this one is measuring and marking. And once again, there's not much needed. I have a cloth measuring tape. And these things do wear out. They do get, if you step on, they get a hard crease in them, they'll tear and they'll break. So I've noticed in recent years that they only seem to sell one length, and it's really long, like longer than 85 inches. Now, as tailors tend to wear these things around our neck, almost like a priest's stole, you could call it. It's almost a badge of office. If it's so long that the ends are trailing on the ground, it's a real pain in the backside. So I've shortened this one to, as we see, 85 inches. I do have many spares of these because, again, they do break and they do wear out. And I've got at least one of the very long ones. And I think it's like 10 feet long or something like that, which I keep just in case of that customer of full habit coming through the door. I've mentioned before about not completely trusting the first inch because of the metal grommet on the end, or whatever we could call it, being wobbly. But when I compare it against another part of the tape, my fears are essentially groundless there. I still don't like it very much because it's as you can see, it's held by one single press in the middle, and it tends to wobble a bit. So be that as it may. My other measuring tools are the gauges that I mentioned, made out of thin cedar stock, just because I had some thin cedar stock when I suddenly came up with this idea. They're all 2.5 inches long because, again, in the vast, vast majority of cases when I'm measuring for an adult male, 2.5, using my measuring system at least, the center of the strap and buckle is 2.5 inches down from the top of the kilt. And as you can see, I've got them graduated from 3/8 up to 3/8 of an inch all the way up to 1 inch and 3/8. And in my box over here, oh look, I've got a couple of blanks, which are even wider if I were to need a wider pleat. Can't see it that I've used that, but as you can see, I've graduated the things. They're just a handy little way to avoid making an error. As far as marking, I use Taylor's wax chalk, and I'll try to post a couple of links in the comments section, but you can just find these on eBay, right? Now, the thing about Taylor's chalk is I sometimes get the feeling that it's not all created equal. And my favorite source of supply, which was this PMC Master Crayons, Perfection Master Crayons, I wasn't able to find them last time I went online to look for them. So when you get wax chalk, and frankly, anytime you're using chalk on a new piece of cloth, it's a good idea to make a chalk mark and then press it with an iron to see if the chalk evaporates or disappears under heat. Because there's once or twice I found that the chalk didn't dissipate and my heart just about stopped. And also for that reason, I only use them in 2 colors. I have yellow and, oh look, I forgot to put them out beforehand. Yellow and white are the 2 colors I use. I also use Taylor's clay chalk. And again, if you do a Google search, you should find these things. I tend to use the wax myself because clay makes a nice mark, but it disappears pretty quickly. In fact, the whole point is that you just sort of, it's dust, and if you beat the cloth for a while, it should just about disappear. In some cases, I found that I've had to take a damp cloth and sponge it out. But again, that's just my my prejudices and my likes and dislikes. Wax chalk, clay chalk. The other thing I'll have is just a Sharpie for signing the work inside, signing it on the canvas. Now, I should mention that chalk does get dull, and I have seen videos of tailors sharpening their chalk just by rubbing it against the rope and shears, their scissors. I've never been able to do that well. In fact, I can't do it at all well. So rather than waste a box of chalk learning, I just have a piece of sandpaper to sharpen my clay chalk, and I have an old wooden plane. This is a corner plane. made by Veritas. It's a copy of a historical style of tool, and it's designed to cut on the pull stroke on a piece of wood to create an edge which is at right angles. And I bought this thing because I love Lee Valley, but then I discovered I didn't use it very much for woodworking because I'm a boat builder. I'm not a cabinet maker, and there's very, very, very few right angles. Actually, wrong. There are no right angles in boat building. So what I use it for now is that's my that's how I sharpen my chalk. As you can see from the yellow deposits there, I just run the blade, or I run the chalk along the blade just to put an edge on it. So I don't think it's worth going out and buying this just for this purpose. This was a tool I had in the wood shop that I wasn't using, and I repurposed it. I mean, you could do anything that works the same, where you've got a blade held in relation to a register surface, a bed as it were, so you can take a controlled slice off each time. But there you go, measuring, marking. Now I'll sit down and figure out what I'll talk about next in tools and methods of work.